everyone, and welcome to another episode of Q&A with Brittany, where I answer your questions about people problems and more. Today's question is from Jamie. Jamie asks, how can you become comfortable with public speaking? And the second part to her question is, how do you not care what other people think about you? Jamie, this is a great question. And while I do have a lot of experience public speaking, I thought, why not bring on a special guest? I never really do this with my Q&As, but I thought, hey, let's switch it up a bit. So I'm bringing on a special guest to answer your question. This special guest is not only a public speaker, but they made it to the world stage of the Toastmasters International Speaking Contest. Please help me welcome Kevin Johnson, who will be helping me answer your question today. Oh my God! Hey Kevin, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to bring you on to the show because this is the first time I've ever had a guest for my Q&A sessions, so this should be awesome. All right, so Jamie has a question, and that question is, how do you become comfortable with public speaking? So it's actually a two-part question, but I'm going to go ahead and start with the first part. So that's the first part. How do you become comfortable with public speaking?
Become comfortable with it, get used to it. Do it a lot. And the other thing is, don't think about it as public speaking. We separate one-on-one conversation with public speaking. And ultimately, whenever you're up speaking, you're having a conversation with people. Whenever you're talking about anything, ultimately it's something that you have a topic you're wanting to get across. So I like to use the illustration of a mom talking to their child, and they're trying to tell their child that they need to clean their room, right? Or they need to take their medicine, whatever it may be. She's convicted about what she's saying. She cares. So she's not worried about how she looks. She's not worried about how she sounds. She's not worried about anything. She's worried about conveying this message. Whenever you're in front of an audience, you have to think about it like that. One, you got to believe in what you're talking about. If you don't, you are going to struggle. Two, you got to have compassion for those in the audience. Think about your message. Whenever you're talking, always be thinking about what you're talking about, putting it out in front of you, because if not, then you're going to get in the way of the message. Whenever we get in our own head, we're thinking about us, thinking about our hair, thinking about anything like that. We end up putting ourselves out in front of the message. And you got to think about what's more important, you or the message.
I think that's a really great point. And for you being a Toastmaster, I know you get to we as Toastmasters get to choose which topics we want to talk about. But what advice would you give to someone who isn't speaking to an audience about something they're passionate about? What if they are speaking in front of their team members about a topic that they may not be that comfortable with?
That's a hard one, because if you don't believe in what you're selling, you're going to be a bad salesman. You got to believe in what you're trying to get across. So I gave a safety speech one time, and the topic I was touching, I didn't really care too much about it, but what I did is I found a common denominator, something that I did care about, and that's what I focused on. Care about what you're talking about, you're going to really struggle.
I think that's perfect, because regardless of what you're talking about, regardless of the subject, you need to find a way to connect with that in some way, even if you have to create a story for yourself. And the point that you brought up earlier about having compassion and realizing that the purpose of you speaking to begin with is to get your message across to people. It's not about you. And I feel like a lot of times the reason that we become so worked up and so nervous is not because we're thinking about the message we're delivering, but how we're going to be perceived. So it's kind of a selfish way of thinking about it. And that kind of leads into the second part of their question. So the second part of their question is, how do you not care what people think?
All right, well, I'm gonna back up a little bit, because you answered my question for me in a way. Brought up compassion. And for me, I don't want anything I speak about to be boring. So if I'm talking about paint drying on the wall, I have a challenge within myself. My conviction then falls to, how can I make this not boring? Their time becomes my priority. And so even if I don't care about the subject, I care about what's happening here and that it's not boring to them. So more or less, make the session itself be what you're passionate about. Ultimately, I'm never thinking about myself when I'm speaking. It's the last thing on my mind. I have made mistakes in the past and done that. I did it in the finals. I was all just in my own head thinking about myself throughout the whole thing. Look at it this way. I use an acronym, GIFT, right? So you got your topic, you grab your topic. That's the first thing. Next, you identify the audience. Who am I talking to? Is it a bunch of kids? Is it a bunch of adults? Whoever. Then F is you find the need. Why does this audience need this topic? And then once you have it, just like a gift, comes to transfer the idea. How can I present this to them in a way where they're going to like it? So just present it to them. Always think about it as a gift. For me, that's how I keep from caring about myself, because we don't do that with anything else we give. We're not thinking about ourselves. So why do we do it when we're speaking?
Yeah, I love that. You sum that up in a way that it's memorable, right? Because you use GIFT as an acronym that's easy to remember. Your speech is the gift, and it's those strategy methods within the GIFT breakdown acronym, right? I love that. That's awesome. Great advice. Well, Kevin, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being my guinea pig for the first guest to come on my Q&A session and help me answer questions. And I really appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing and your time. And thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
How can people find out more about you? So where's a good place for them to find you?
If you ever want to reach out to me, ever have any questions, Facebook, you could find me there. Shoot me a message. LinkedIn, either one of those, and you'll find me.
Well, and I'll put all of that information in the description of this video as well, so it'll be easy for them to just click and find you. Awesome. Thank you again. I appreciate it. I really hope you enjoyed this episode incorporating Kevin into the Q&A session. I think he had some amazing points to make. We need to focus on our audience and the needs and what they are getting out of our speech instead of being focused on how we're going to be perceived. I really hope that helped answer your question. If any of you have a question that you would like answered on my next episode, please send me a direct message, and I hope to see you next time.